What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some hard trance. Though we're jumping ahead in time from a lot of the hard and acid trance I react to, which is to say we're going to listen to a tune from 2006. This is a track by K Complex, whose name I think is Pete Richardson, if I'm not mistaken, and the label is NEC Live, which I think stands for New Energy Crew, because I think a lot of these artists were working somewhere on the borderline between hard trance and hard house. And I've mentioned before the DJ mixtape that I had professionally made, which is to say I recorded a lot of tapes back in the day, but I had one that was like recorded on a DAT tape, and it was, mastered and mass produced. I think there were like 300 copies, but the point is that tape was like a mixture of acid trance, hard trance, and hard house, which was the majority set type that I played at a lot of the parties in my original run of DJing, which is to say from like late 99 to like 03 or so. I think maybe there was one in 04. But the point is, in that early phase of my playing at parties, playing out as we used to say, a lot of my sets were somewhere in that Venn diagram of acid trance, hard trance, and hard house. And this track and this label, I think, speak to that genre or subgenre, though again this comes from '06, so it wasn't part of my sets back then, but I think it's reflective of that hybridized style that began to emerge as the genres of hard trance were changing at the turn of the millennium, as hard house became very popular in rave parties like late 90s into the early 2000s. But yes, I think a number of the artists who were part of the New Energy Crew played like this hard house, hard trance hybrid style. And I forget the other artists in the moment that are on this label. I think K Complex is the most featured artist on this sub-label, which only had, I want to say, a half dozen releases. I think the New Energy Crew regular label, I don't know if it was actually called NEC, but there was like another label that preceded this that has more releases. This one I think was stylized in terms of some live recordings, like live performances where they did variations of tracks that maybe had been released before. In any case, this is a track called Believe in the Future, and there's a very uplifting, inspiring vocal sample which says the title of the track throughout. And yeah, it doesn't sound like 90s hard trance. It sounds like something that is more evolved, and again, the percussion maybe has a bit of a hard house flavor, but it's definitely a trance tune. It's got drive, it's got energy, it's got some great sonic elements that build their way into the tune. In the moment, I don't think there's much acid to speak of. If there is any acid, it's like, simple, maybe supporting flourishes, or maybe like some small acidic rhythmic elements, but yeah, in the moment, I'm not recalling any notable acid feature. So it is more straight away hard trance rather than hard trance, which has acid as a notable component. But yes, I got this through Discogs and played it in a number of sets in the hard trance, acid trance vein when I got back to DJing in a more full and regular capacity, which, just to briefly explain, I have talked about this before. Once I stopped playing parties at the end of '04, and partly because I was going to a lot of punk shows and I had a lot going on in my life, I wasn't DJing as often, like even at my apartment, and I wasn't buying as many records. Now, I still did mix an occasional set. I have a few mixes left over from that era that I recorded on my 4-track recorder and eventually ripped into MP3s, and some of them are still on my computer. I might upload some of them. I mean, the sound quality isn't great, compared to the way I record things now when I do my audio sets, but either way, they are nostalgic. And yes, around '08, certainly by '09, I got refocused on mixing sets and buying records and, dove back into it head first, and that has continued for now a decade and a half or so into the middle of the 2020s. So yes, this was a record that I got probably like '07, '08. I don't think I got it right when it came out in '06, but I got it in the year or two after that, and then used it in a number of my trance sets, which, again, I've told this story before, but I didn't join SoundCloud until 2013 because I didn't know about that site. I was going to this site run by this Australian DJ Fez, and he ran a site called DJ Fez Mixes or something like that, and you could upload your own mixes. You could create a profile and upload your own mixes, and I had like multiple hundred sets on there, and they'd get like hundreds of downloads, and that sort of encouraged me to just, keep putting out more and more sets. And eventually I found SoundCloud, and the rest, as they say, is history. So that's a little nostalgic history lesson. Let's listen to the actual tune. This is K Complex, which again, I believe his real name is Pete Richardson. And the track is Believe in the Future from the NEC Live label in 2006. Probably 45. I'm going to start at 33, but I think it's 45. That layer, which I like a lot, it's going to go double time. think there was a mix back then that I went from this track into a 90s hard trance classic, Commander Tom's RMI, which I did react to a while back. Something about the way the lower end, the like bass line shifts in that final measure, which I think it's just like a 32 after that. But yeah, it seems to get close to a sound that the lower end of RMI exudes. So yeah, I have a memory of going straight from this track into that, which again, like a lot of my sets did that. A lot of my sets, when I focused on DJing, they were combining some records that I had gotten over the last several years in the 2000s via Discogs with some records I had going back to the 90s. So yeah, a lot of my trance set especially, but also my acid techno sets, they have this combination of a lot of old school stuff, but a few post 2000 tracks mixed in for good measure, and sort of, taking the best from different years, different eras. In any case, yeah, I love the drive of this tune. I was surprised, like that metallic / Hoover-esque. It's not like a full Hoover synth, but it has a bit of that menace to it. Yeah, that layer, which again comes in like every other bar in the like middle intro, like not at the very beginning of the track. It comes in like after, the first minute or two. And then there's that brief like mini breakdown before you get to the major breakdown. And in that mini breakdown, when it comes out of that, it's then going like repeatedly. It's cyclical, and it's, multiple times every bar. And I really enjoy that section. And for some reason, I thought that element came back a little bit on the track's way to its outro, but no, it's not the case. So yeah, it's one of those tunes where I love the melody. I love the uplifting but still intense and driving melody of the breakdown and the main release of the track. That's fantastic. But I especially love the grittier and metallic section after that mini breakdown, before the major breakdown. That might be my favorite part of the track. But yes, the melody's great. I do like the vocal, the way it's used, the way it's looped, and it just has this really soulful, inspiring, you want to raise your fist in the, not defiance, but the idea of believing in the future as a place where you'd want to go, a place where you'd want to be, a place where things can be changed for the better. So believe in the future. Don't be overly pessimistic or cynical, even though it's easy to fall into that mode of thinking. Believe me, as someone who, cast a critical eye on a lot of the way things have been done over the centuries, decades, and right into the present, as someone who studies history, as someone who likes dissident punk rock, it is of course easy to see things, and right to see things with a critical eye. But you have to, I think, on some level balance that with a conviction that you can continue to improve things, that the human condition and that the human species might, even if there's some backsliding, and even if there's those who would seemingly, only go to that more desirable future kicking and screaming and trying to tear things down, that can be a destination that we can continue to strive for. So yes, I feel like it's just a 3-word or 4-word phrase, but I feel like the sample really gives off that kind of vibe. So yeah, it's a top tune. Again, you can hear that this is not 95, and again, I think you can hear some hard house stylings in terms of the way the kick drum hits. It's like more of a hard house synth or a hard house kick than a 90s acid trance or hard trance kick. But yeah, I like the hybrid style. I think it's a top tune, and I think it sounds fantastic, roughly 20 years after it came out. So yeah, the guy, K Complex, or I think Pete Richardson, my understanding is he's most known for tunes that went into what is called freeform, which is short for freeform hardcore. Though as someone who cut my hardcore teeth listening to 90s gabber, I've always felt, I don't know if it's a misnomer, but I'd say like trancecore is maybe the best way to describe it, because freeform hardcore, I think it grew out of like really fast post-2000 trance, and it has more melody and more atmosphere than what I think of when I think of hardcore. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of gabber and artcore, it has atmosphere, it can have melody, it can have a, really, what's the right word, enveloping sort of feel to it. Again, the Cenobite label is a perfect example of that, and yet again, freeform hardcore was something else entirely. So I remember when people started using that term, I didn't quite know how to take it, and you know, it wasn't a genre that I had a lot of records in. But yes, I think K-Complex is known as much for his freeform hardcore as he is for his hard trance. So maybe this is when he was kind of transitioning into the freeform direction. Nevertheless, I've talked a lot in the video, so I'll stop here, but let me know what you think of the tune, and I will see you for the next one.
Peace.